So I'm Mike Schlickburn with Dream Vesting Capital, along with,
I'm Tanner Sherman.
and today we'll be interviewing Ted Kaasch. And Ted, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, what's going on, peeps? I go back with Mike Schlickburn here and Tanner. Known you guys for a few years, but Mike and his wife actually brought me into the real estate game. Prior to doing that, I was working for a local foundation company. And when Mike and Jerry were doing flips, they would call me out to come check out some properties. And I would come out there and check them out and give my opinion on the foundations. And then at one point, Jerry's like, we'd really love to bring you on as our head of marketing. And head of marketing led to office manager, to marketing for all the companies at one point, to being eventually a realtor and handling all of Jerry Schlickburn's real estate dealings. And then actually being the guy that I think the first agent for Dream Vesting, technically, right? And right, Mikey?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And then now it's been April marked 8 years with the Dream Vesting companies. I now have a few LLCs. I have Kaasch Money Properties, which is an LLC that we basically run all of my rentals and flips through. We have Kaasch Money Investing, which is where we do partnerships with sometimes partnerships with other people wanting to sell their house, but maybe they need to have some money to renovate it. So we've done a couple of properties where we've come and done a renovation and paid back. Otherwise, we just kind of run all of our money through that. And then we have Omaha RIA, which is the Real Estate Investment Association. We are going to officially launch Nebraska RIA here soon, which we'll get into. And I am a partner with Jerry and Mike on DBG Realty Group, where I am the broker on file, and we're an investment focused real estate brokerage. I predominantly, in my real estate business, I predominantly buy condemned houses and do big overhauls of them. Sometimes they take too long, and make them midterm, short-term rentals. So that's kind of the gist of it. And I have to give a shout out to my wife, Jessica. She can't be on here, she's traveling, but she definitely helps out heavily on the RIA side. So definitely want to give her a shout out for that. Is that kind of a big enough picture there, Mikey?
Yeah, that was great, Ted.
I think you scratched the surface at least, right?
Yeah,
there we go. It started, right? Oh, and then we do a podcast called RIA Radio.
Yeah.
Put that out.
So the purpose of us doing this interview today, Ted, is we really want to talk to you about how important networking has been to the success of your businesses. Because, as you did Omaha nightlife and now have moved on into the real estate sector, you have definitely put yourself in a position where you get to meet a lot of people in the area. And I want to hear a little bit about how that has benefited your individual success and your real estate business success.
Man, brought up Omaha nightlife. Mike, we got memories there.
Yeah.
So OmahaNightlife.com was a job that I started working as a photographer when I was 21 or 22, right around there, and actually met Mike. He was the first sales guy there as a part-time. And one thing that really helped, it wasn't necessarily networking. I mean, it was because you went to these bars, you took pictures, and you got to meet people that way. And I still have a lot of that network around. But one thing that I implemented when I took over the general manager position was that all charity events were free, because there was a bad image of a party website pretty much. And so anytime there was a charity event out there, we could be a main sponsor of it. We did marketing for free on that. We had a big outreach, and that was networking in its own, because we got to meet people that were in a higher class from what we were. We're super young, and we're meeting people that were in their 30s, 40s plus at the time, and getting our name out there. So that was kind of like an introduction to networking, I would say. Wouldn't you say, Mike?
Yes, for sure. Definitely getting out and meeting people, socializing. It was basically the way you socialized before Facebook and social media, right?
Yeah. MySpace was a thing then. That's what got us around.
Yeah, MySpace. There you go.
But from there, when the Schlicks brought me on, their big thing was they said go to every single networking group that you can find. And at the time, there was only 2 networking groups in town. There was Metro Omaha Property Owners Association, MOPOA, and there was the Omaha RIA. And Omaha RIA was ran by Andy and Paulina Kosich, and which Paulina just happened to be a real estate agent on the DBG team at the time. So I attended those events. I didn't know any better what was good, what was bad. I'm not saying it was, but I just didn't know. And I went to those events completely open-minded, made a point to meet as many people as I could. And there was I was interviewing Sam Tevis on a podcast a few months ago, and he brought something up, and it made me think, because I did this without thinking about it, and he's the first person to kind of bring it to light. But he mentioned when he went to a networking group, he literally went there, sat back, and to see who crowded around somebody. And he wanted to see who the big deal was. And that's what we did. I mean, we didn't know it, but we were like, oh man, who's the person everybody's talking to? And at the time it was like the Ben and Peter Katz. It was John Hoyt when he showed up, Van D when he showed up. It was of course Andy and Paulina. And there was a few others. I mean, you probably remember a few of the names that back then that were kind of standing out. But you wanted to see what those people were doing and listen to them and get advice to them, and then people just kind of hovered around them. And there wasn't a lot of meetups around, so this one was held at a school at the time, the Omaha RIA at the time, and again 8 years ago. And they brought in some speakers that would try to sell you on joining their mastermind group, but for me it really wasn't about the presenters per se. I mean, I got some golden nuggets out of every time I listened to it, but it was definitely just getting to know the people and building my network. From going to those events, one of my goals was to meet as many wholesalers as I possibly could. And at one point, our wholesale list, I think, had over around 48 wholesalers on it that our team would reach out to, I don't know, 2-3 times a week to see what leads they had. And then I was also starting to build my cash buyer list. They didn't know it. I let them tell it to me, because there's nothing more knowing than somebody coming up to you and be like, oh, are you a cash buyer? So, I just made conversations, listened to what they're talking about. We did happy hours or lunches, and then really got to understand what they're looking for, but never did I really pitch them. I wanted them to tell me what they're looking for, just create a friendship.
Yeah, that's something that you definitely are good at, Ted, is creating those relationships, maintaining relationships with people, and also making your buyers list. You created that huge list. I know we put it on like Excel spreadsheet. Is there any ways that you want to share with us how you keep in touch with your networking list of people, or
with us? At that time it was pretty primitive. It was Excel, and that just progressed to a Google sheet more than anything. And then every time I put those contacts in my phone, if I at any point want to find a wholesaler, I literally just have wholesale as a tag in my contacts. And then if they're a realtor, I have that as a tag. And if they're an investor, I have that as a tag. And then I also tag if they're an investor that was referred, I'll put investor and then referred by the name. So that way I can always make sure I thank the person that referred that person to me. Or also my memory is not the best when it comes to, I remember a face forever, but names I'm terrible with. So I write a ton of notes on my contacts, and like, this person was referred by this person. So for me, that helps.
And that's awesome, because Mike and I have been going to a lot more networking events nationwide, just getting to know different styles of networking, from all these people. And one of the coolest things that I've seen is whenever someone, usually it's just, here's my card, there's my card, maybe we'll reach out. But some of the most effective ones that I've seen is these guys will go up and take a selfie picture with the new contact, new friend, and they will text it to them. And so then they save it in their number or save it in their phone with that picture, and it puts a face to the name, and it just creates a lot more of a personalized approach. And so I love seeing all those unique approaches to networking. As an advocate for the RIA and the meetup groups in town, I remember when I was starting out a couple of years ago, that's actually how, my wife Nicole and I met Mike and Jerry. Is I remember sitting at one of the meetup groups and seeing Mike and Jerry with a crowd of people around them, and they just had this presence, and they were poised, and they were friendly. They didn't have a holier than thou look to them. It was just they were really wanted to help the people that were around them. And at the time, we were just, I was still in the military. We were trying to get to know Ted, and kept trying to get on his calendar, which is very hard to do. So thank you for joining us today.
Hey, we did cigars and whiskey, buddy.
That was after I committed to join with you. So, but it was many RIA groups where you just kept seeing us coming up, and you would come up to Nicole and I, and you'd just be like, "Hey, thanks for coming back, guys. Like this, I'm glad you guys made it." And we knew nothing about real estate. We'd sit in the back of the room, and we'd hope that no one talked to us, and just hope that we could learn something. And Ted would come up and be the friendly face that would at least give us 5 minutes of, thanks for coming. And so when we did get our real estate license, we, talked to Ted about it, and he said, "You know what, let me just tell you what we're doing." And very friendly approach to introduce us into the investor agent, arena. And honestly, if you would have come at us and said, like, we're the best brokerage, you have to join us, we probably would have been skittish. But because of your approach was just, I want to help people, that's what we're about. And so I think all that to say, these networking groups are extremely important for ways that you can't even imagine how they're going to impact you, right? I mean, did you ever imagine that you'd be doing a podcast that has how many downloads you guys at now?
Some 700 plus a week.
That's incredible. And I'm sure that you never imagined doing that going to the RIAs, 6-8 years ago, right?
Well, the funny thing is, everybody I met in the podcast, I met at the RIAs. And that's a story in its own. I want to elaborate on one thing that you said, and it made me think of a gentleman that I sat down with. And, you mentioned the picture with the contact. I actually sat down, met with somebody, and first time meeting with him, and he's like, "Hey, can I take a picture? I want to post this on my Instagram, tag you on it, and then that way you remember who I am, and then I have a connection." Well, first off, if you're a person that doesn't like to follow a ton of people, that's a great end to start building your social media page. But it also made it so I did remember that person, and it's forever tagged, and I see them over and over in my tag photos. And it really kind of stood out to me. It's not something I've done, but something that I would like to do. And you saying that picture with the contact actually made me think about that, because you also can make that the photo for the contact also. So that's a great little golden nugget there.
Yeah.
Golden nugget.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for sharing that. Well, we did have a question in the chat. Are you still working with wholesalers?
Well, so there's been a lot of drama with wholesalers, not them per se, but with the legal side. There's wholesalers I still consistently talk to, but I have not done a wholesale transaction since the laws changed. But there's been some changes in that, and I'm actually Jerry Schlickburn and I are talking right now about doing a webinar specifically about the law changes. And when you work with a realtor, there is some opportunities that you can still do wholesaling and do it legally. So there's some changes coming out. I don't want to get too deep into that, because I don't want to say something that's not true, but there is a legal path to working with wholesalers right now, and we will be we'll be doing a full presentation on that soon.
And unfortunately, there's a lot of back and forth about it, right? Working with wholesalers was such a pivotal part of your business for many years. So the thing that you've had to do, and we've all had to do, is adapt to the change of the legislation. And the importance of working with a realtor is that there is ethics, and there's laws, and there's specific requirements that we have to meet, which I feel like adds a lot of trust for some people, but to other people, they feel like they're leaving too much meat on the bone, or, or not leaving enough meat rather, because the realtor is going to come, take some of it. So what has been your experience with that kind of pushback?
There's a reason why everybody wants to sell, and there's a reason for wholesalers. I just sold an off-market property with permission from a client that I was going to list, and pretty much I was a wholesaler in a lot of ways there, because I specifically had a property that actually Orange Property Management was managing. I was involved with this. The seller was actually a realtor on our team in the past. And in this situation, they didn't want to do the $2,000 clean out and the $3,000 of painting. So in this situation, they called me up and said, hey, if you can bring me a buyer for X amount of dollars, we would like to do it. Now, since I'm not telling you the property, I'll tell you the numbers. They're like, hey, if it's $165,000, I don't need to pay commissions, and it's as is, quick close, cash, I'm in. And in my same conversation, and everything's documented, I'm like, hey, I would list this house for 195 to 200,000. And this would make a lot more sense, but they're like, okay, well, after I have, and I had an agent on the team. She brought in a full cash offer, and, and they're like, well, I don't have to pay fees. I don't have inspection issues. I don't have to spend $6,000 in cleaning and painting and updates. And it's going to be done in 4 days. It makes more sense. And that's what a lot of the wholesalers are doing. They're providing a service that is hard to get from most real estate agents. And us investment agents have those ability because we have a big buyer list. And we can just put it out there and say, hey, this is exactly what they're looking for. If you're willing to take it, we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll list it for the different amount. But in the end, we ran the numbers back and forth of some probabilities and hold time, and it come down to them. They're like, is $10,000 worth waiting 45 more days? And it wasn't. So that's what wholesalers are coming in. They're going in these hoard houses in most cases, or houses that have people just gave up on, and they're providing a remedy. Now, there's, just like every industry, realtors and everything, there's good and bad people, right? And there was some, there's some shady people that does shady stuff in wholesaling. And so it got a bad rap. Realtors and car salesmen also have a bad rap in a lot of ways, but there's also really good car salesmen, and there's really good realtors, and there's faithful, trustful ones. I sold cars for a year of my life. And to my knowledge, I sold more people two and three car vehicle packages at the same time, because I was honest up front and explained everything, and people see the honesty and that you're not trying to get them. And anyway, I'm going on a tangent there.
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. Another question from the audience. Can you walk us through a particularly challenging networking situation you faced or had to overcome, or how did you overcome it?
A challenging one. Well, I don't know about challenge. I can't think of anything specific that's challenging. What's challenging is when you run the local RIA and somebody cancels on you last minute, and you got to come up with somebody to come fill the spot. So if I guess in that situation, I keep a backup list of people that I can always call, and I tell them that they're my backup list. So Mike and Jerry Schlickburn have been on that backup list, and they've covered for me in a 24-hour notice, especially during COVID when people were canceling left and right. I've reached out to Colin Schwartz and Chris Pomeroy to be on that backup list before, and they're there. So those are the situations I've ran across that have been challenging. I hope that answers your question there, Paul. If it doesn't, please let me know.
Okay.
Well, as someone from the bottom of the backup list that has been on your podcast, we have a question. Is there anyone you'd like to have on the podcast, but you haven't yet? And mind you, I've already been on the podcast, so you can't say me.
Yeah, Mike has too. If you would allow me to walk past this desk, I have a list of the 15 people we're prospecting right now. If you want me to look at it and tell you what it is real quick.
Oh, so we could get the inside scoop
Inside
ahead of
scoop.
time.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'll take a picture of it. 1 second here. You talk.
All right. Well, while you're doing that, I want to elaborate more on what Ted was talking about with working with wholesalers. Is I feel that when you're working with a licensed real estate agent, you know, it adds a little bit of legitimacy to what you're doing. And I say legitimacy because you have to sift through a lot of potentially unethical people. And when you're working with someone who does it every day, it's just like the analogy you said about working, you know, in the auto industry. I personally have terrible luck with vehicles. And I've talked about starting a buyer's agency for vehicle buying because there's so many unethical car salesmen. And if I had someone representing me that did it every single day, I buy a vehicle more than the normal person, but not very often. And if I had someone that did it every day that was giving me advice on how to do it properly, I feel like I would make a lot more safe investments, you know?
Smart. Okay, I got the list. Are you guys ready for it?
Let's hear it.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a podcast that's called RIA Radio. We've been on air for 2 years. I have a great co-host, Owen Dashner. If you guys listen to it, Owen probably speaks about 80% of the time. We got Dennis Bertrand as our producer, and we're on every format. So if you do check us out, little shameless plug, please give us a 5-star review on whatever format you have, and subscribe. It really helps us. But so this is the list that we have written out, and I have a couple people underlined that we're prospecting for episode 100, which is going to happen this summer. But you're gonna laugh. Number one on the list is Jerry Schlickburn. Jerry is our official backup person if somebody was to cancel. We had a few cancellations, but every time she's been out of town, so she is on there. But she has stepped in as a co-host 2 or 3 times now. So we're looking at doing a roundtable discussion. I'd like to do a roundtable with property managers. Property managers have the best stories, and I've always, anytime somebody reaches out to me and says, "Hey, I want to get in real estate investing, what's the fastest way to learn it?" I said, "Work for a property manager." That's how Mikey learned it.
Oh, yeah.
And I got John Hoyt on here. He spoke at our event. We broadcasted it, but John, I mean, he's got like, I think 4,000 or 5,000 units right now. Lifelong investor. Sanjay Panchal is a hotel flipper. We have Jay Lund, Carol Scott, Jay Papazon, which is one of the people we're prospecting for episode 100. David Green, we're prospecting for episode 100. Brian Murray, Mindy Jensen, Josh Dorkin, which is the creator of Bigger Pockets. We're prospecting him for episode 100. Felipe Mejia, Shelby Osborne, AJ Osborne, Hal Elrod, which is our prospect for episode 100, and Kim Stevens, which is one of Jerry's proteges Jerry was one of the top short sale agents in Arizona and Nebraska, and Kim and her worked together, and now Kim's the top one. So we thought there'd be some interesting conversations there. So that's actually our kind of short list of people that we're prospecting right now. But I'm gonna tell you guys what, we, you know, as much as we love the content we get on these national people we talk to, there's nothing better than sitting at the table with somebody face to face and having an amazing conversation and drinking an old fashioned. I should have made one for myself right now while I was sitting here, to be honest with you. But we get so much more when they're right in front of us. We did a podcast with Brandon Turner, and we actually flew out to San Diego and met him at an Airbnb and got to sit in the same room with them. And you know, the experience you get with the person, you actually when you can create some relationships over Zoom, but when you sit with somebody at a table, it's a whole different feel. The conversations are so much lighter, and you feel like you're best friends with that person. You really know who they are when you're done. And that's actually one of the things I love the most about podcasting.
Yeah. Who would you say was your most impactful person that you interviewed, or that you got the most golden nuggets out from that conversation?
I mean, Brandon Turner was just, I mean, we were kind of starstruck. If you guys don't know Brandon, he's the originator with Josh Dorkin on the Bigger Pockets podcast. He had over 100 million downloads. Megan Ahern set that up for us. So shout out to Megan. And I mean, he's just on autopilot. So like you can't have a bad podcast with him because he just goes. He's actually probably one of the only podcasts that we really didn't feel like we controlled fully. But man, he just drops some nuggets. But I personally did over 20 hours of research on that before going into that. And we were able to take that whole conversation. At the end, he's like, literally, this is one of the most unique podcasts I ever did. He goes, you guys had questions that nobody ever asked me. And Jay Scott was also one of those people. And Jay Scott, he's like 45-minute podcast. I'll be out. We went over 2 hours on that one. And at the end there, he's like, guys, I do like 7 of these sometimes in a day. and he's like that. He goes, that was the most unique podcast I've ever done. So we tried to like not just be the how do you start doing real estate type of podcast. We really try to do our research, come up with a question to start that they're not used to, just kind of throw them off, and then just shoot the shit. I not just be this like standard, this is who we are, this is what we talk about. We do have our little segments we hit every time, but that's just because we like doing those.
So funny story, I was actually just on the Active Duty Passive Income podcast, which is primarily it's a military focused podcast, and I was supposed to be episode 296, and they've been around for a few years. They do lending, they have a fund, they're doing really big things right now. They're where you're going to be at in the next 3 or 4 months. And my episode was actually replaced by Jay Scott, and then pushed back even further by Ryan Pineda, and then me. So I was like, all right, I'm okay with that.
Those are some big names that you're in there with, though, Tanner.
Yeah, it was Jay Scott, Ryan Pineda, followed by,
Here's the thing. That is the best position you could be in, because every time we bring in a massive hitter, the next podcast is always that much, has that many more downloads, because they'll listen to Jay Scott, and then and especially if they're new, they're addicted, and then they're like, oh shit, Ryan Pineda, I'm gonna listen to that, and then they go right to your podcast. So you'll get more downloads because of how they just did that for you.
It's very cool, to go from being in the interview seat to being, interviewing someone else, and I I'm sure you have experienced that multiple times, right?
Yeah, it's different. I don't usually talk this much. Usually Owen does all the talking.
Well, I do have one question for you. Is, since I've been an agent, in Nebraska, you've always expressed the importance of separating your involvement with the meetup groups with your real estate position. And that's one of the things I respect about you most, is that you never want your position in the meetup group, or your position or involvement, influence, to take away from other real estate professionals. And I definitely want to hear more about your philosophy on giving back to everyone and not using the meetup group as a position of profit.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was, a funny thing that you mentioned, I was actually nervous about this interview for that exact reason, because I knew this was going to be live streamed on our RIA page, and I just don't self promote on there, because I don't want to take away from the people in the group. Probably 40+% of our 450 paid members of our group, all of those guys are specifically realtors. And when I was a realtor going to the RIA group before I took over, the current owner at that time, they had their banners up promoting their real estate, and I get it. Every group does that. But I also felt like uncomfortable in that position, because I was there, trying to promote myself, but I didn't necessarily feel comfortable getting up in front of everybody and promoting myself, because their real estate companies were being promoted everywhere. And I wanted everybody to feel welcome. And I feel like every realtor should be a real estate investor. So, I want to appeal to every single realtor out there that this is the right group for you. So I specifically, we do have real estate sponsors. So our company is one of the sponsors of the organization, but there's not big banner ads. They're on one banner with a whole bunch of 20 some other sponsors. And we can have other real estate companies be a sponsor on the group too. So the way we have it set up is, each sponsor level is got specific amount of sponsors they can have in each category. And I make it a point that if I'm shouting out DVG Realty, because they're the drink sponsor that month, then I'm shouting out my business partners, Mike and Jerry, instead of shouting at me, because I don't want to take away from the rest of the realtors in the room. And I always make it a point also at the end to ask, there's always a lot of rookies in the room, or newbies and rookies. And I'll say, hey, who's a contractor, and then people's hands go up, and so on and so on. And when we get to the point of I always ask who's the realtor in the room, and then I see hands go, and I go, who's an investment real estate agent in the room, because you also want to know who those people in the room. So I try to actually give all those people attention, because it's not the me show, it's the show, it's for everybody else. If it was a me show, we wouldn't be getting the attendance. And I hope that everybody that comes to it realizes that it's not about me, and it's not about any specific sponsor. They're the reasons we're able to keep our prices low. Our RIA group is the lowest price RIA significantly in the country, period. And there's 100,000 RIA members that are part of the national RIA organization, which we are. And we only have 450 members of that 100,000. And we are able to keep our prices low because of our sponsors, and because of the different things we do to get money versus just gouging people on memberships. And inflation happens, prices do go up. Don't yell at me if I got to raise some membership prices, but we charge $100 a year. And I try to keep everything as fair as possible. So thank you for asking that. It's an uncomfortable topic for me.
No, it was a great answer. I do appreciate that. And I think we all know how involved you are in the community, and it's very cool to see, that you're not up there to self-promote. You're up there to benefit the whole community. And, you'll encourage us as agents, like, hey, this is your chance to go talk about your business. But you will, at no point, it's, since I've ever known you, have you used your platform to self-promote your real estate business.
Yeah, no. But, I encourage our agents to show up and, promote themselves, just like that's how I learned. So I definitely want everybody in my circle to be there and see that we are there representing. But I'm not, it's not to take away, it's just so they can learn like I learned.
Yeah. Well, definitely you have built up a great RIA, and it shows, by how much you pour into the community and in the members. So, and then keeping it low and affordable for everybody is, yeah.
And it stands out. I mean, I know, Mike, you've been to RIAs, in multiple places around the country, right? And
yeah, I'm currently in Florida right now, and I have a list of a RIA that's going on, not really a RIA, but a meetup. Like every night of the week, there's a new meetup in the Tampa Bay area. So again, that just shows like networking, how important networking is to growing your network and your business. So
of course.
Well, and speaking of Florida, Mike and I recently had the opportunity to go to Miami and listen to a bunch of great speakers talk about, professional development and starting a fund. And one of the speakers that we got to see was Pace Morby. And I see a question in the comments, putting you on the spot, of when is Pace Morby coming to town, or any other big social media real estate influencers?
Well, funny thing is that Pace was scheduled to come in town, and he was coming in town on Mother's Day. And that didn't go over too well with the wife and everybody, but we were moving forward. We got the venue all locked down. It was happening. We had to abruptly cancel the event about 48 hours prior, and we couldn't really tell publicly why. Now we can talk about it, but he found out that him and his wife were having another baby, and they wanted to go back to home and tell his mother face to face on Mother's Day. So Yeah.
Oh.
But I've been tentatively keeping August open. We're in talks to try to get him in town in August. If no promises, I'm not holding my breath, but we'll see what happens. But if he comes, it probably won't be on our traditional first Tuesdays that we normally do. It'll just be on whatever works in his schedule. It'll be a special event type thing.
Great question, though. I mean, especially with the amount of influencers you've been able to connect with recently, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We a lot of the time, the cool thing is that the podcast has been a great filler for RIA guests. I've actually never flown anybody in the next 2 months. I'm flying people in that I've talked to. So I'm a shameless plug here. Tuesday, June 6th, we have Patrick Switek coming in. I met him at the Bigger Pockets conference when I was networking. And Gen Z kid, I just completely blown away, 24 years old. He's the founder of Short Term Rental Nation. And he had created a mastermind that sold out in Vegas in his first year. He has a meetup group. He has 5 short-term rentals that are in Joshua Tree. He has one in Smoky Mountains, and he bought one of the biggest property management companies in all of Joshua Tree, and is growing it quite fast. The kid is outstanding. Created his first company at 14 years old, making $40,000. Had him on the podcast. Definitely listened to him. It was the most F-bomb bleeps we've ever had to do, but it was a great podcast. I don't know what episode it is, but check it out, Patrick Switek. And then I'm flying in a second person. His name's Mike Wolf. On this one, because of the 4th of July, this one will be on Thursday, July 6th. I just paid for his plane tickets this morning, so everything's confirmed. But he has a mastermind called Mike Wolf Mastery. He's been doing real estate investing for over 30 years. He coaches people, and he's a professional speaker. He's done multiple TED Talks. Just a really interesting guy. So that event is going to be on Thursday, July 6th. So definitely check that out. And then looks like we have some comments here. Yeah, so $100 a year is cheaper than a Prime subscription. Value is 10 and 10. I don't know who put that, but thank you for posting that.
Yeah, and if you become a RIA member, they can look up omaharia.com.
Yeah, go to omaharia.com. There's a join now tab. If you're watching this webinar and you hit me up and add me on Instagram, Kaasch Money, I will do if you hit me up today, I will give you a one-time discount for joining today. How about that? But hit me up on Instagram. I'll have to get on my iPad to see it, but I'll give you a one-time discount for this webinar. And so I'll knock like 20 or $25 off whatever I have on my coupon code. Just a heads up, we are going to up the price here this summer. Just $100. It's hard to maintain things, but take advantage of the discount. Jump on now, and we will hook you guys up. But you can go to omaharia.com and join right now if you want. So
well, just to piggyback on that comment, $100 a year is cheaper than an Amazon Prime subscription, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching this have Netflix, they have Amazon Prime, they're probably sitting at home, after they end this, they're going to go watch some Netflix. And not only do you get all the value from the speakers that come, right? There's national sponsors. You get discounts at Home Depot. You get, there's a lot more value that you can get. You make your money back just from one of those sponsors, right?
Yeah, there's like 20% discount. So there's like 20 local sponsors and 20 national sponsors. I can't control the discounts on national sponsors, but there's some really good ones. And then locally, we have about 20 sponsors, and everybody that legally can give a discount has to give at least a 10% discount. I mean, I just in the last week or two, I'm flipping a house. I use Undercover Kitchen, which with the Foley's own that, and they give I think it's 30% discount on any purchase $1,000 or over, and then they also found a sale on top of that and hooked me up. So yeah, I literally saved thousands of dollars, and then I used our contracting sponsor, and he gave me a 10% discount. And a wood flooring sponsor, and he gave me a 10% discount. Ultimately, the goal is that we have a sponsor for every single category that somebody wants to get into real estate investing and flipping has. So if you know somebody that wants to be a plumbing sponsor or an electrical sponsor, those are kind of a couple ones I'm seeking. I want to have every aspect. I want to have the air duct cleaners. I want to have the carpet cleaners. So that way you can come in and your whole entire dream team is right here, and they all provide you discounts. But we got lawyers, we have bankers, we have hard money lenders, we have roofing companies. So everybody hooks you up, and use one sponsor and you're going to get a deal.
That are vetted and utilized by the owner of the RIA. I think that speaks for itself.
Vetting is loose. I ask around that they're not shady, and we have a very tight network of 20 influential investors around the city that we're on a group text, and we vet people that we work with, and so that's my vetting. And but it is people that I personally use, and I work with every sponsor.
All right, let's see. You have any other questions, Tanner? I have otherwise I have one for you, Ted.
Okay.
How do you balance your networking activities with other responsibilities, as being a broker or your work, your home life, all that?
So one thing I try to do is I disconnect when I get home. My goal is to be home at 5 o'clock every night. My kids go to bed early. Now it's summer, it's a little bit later, but during the school year, they're going to bed at 7:30. And so usually about 8 to 9:30, I'm spending a little time with the wife, either talking about things or watching a show, kind of whatever I can do with her. And thereafter, she goes to bed at 9:30, and I'm pretty much doing emails till about midnight. So, I'm not perfect at it, and I'm not, having this watch on me is a huge distraction. So, whenever I know that it's just family time, I try to put my phone, my watch, and my laptop and my iPad in the garage before I walk in. There's one thing I always say is that when I was working on that foundation company, I was gone a week at a time, every 3, 4, 5 weeks. And I got to a point where my son wasn't running to me and saying, Daddy's home, like he was in the beginning. It was like, it was all about mom. And that was about there was an offer on the table from the Schlicks at that time. And I wasn't jumping on it very fast, but it was also kind of a realization that I needed to do something different. And, traveling 4 states wasn't my thing. So, making time for the family is very important. And again, doing the podcast and interviewing all these people, and I asked that question, how they make time for the family, and that kind of reminds me on a weekly basis when I'm doing those interviews that I need to make the time, and then I change a lot of things as based on the people I listen to and look up to. But I'm always adapting and changing that part of how I do it. Now, for example, I was listening to today's podcast, which is when Jerry subbed in for me, and in Darlang was being interviewed, and he's like, he goes, well, he's the same thing. It's like 5 o'clock, that's family time. But one thing he specifically did is he goes, it's really hard. You just get home, you do your thing. If it's dinner or shows or swimming, kids sports, whatever it is. And he goes, I make a point to this, and he goes, it's only 15 minutes, but he goes, I ask each of my children, you have 15 minutes of my time. It's all about you. What do you want to do? And that's just, it's only 15 minutes, but are you giving your child 15 minutes of your dedicated, non-solicited eye contact? It's all about you, nothing else. And I can't, even though I spend that time with the family, I don't put that time like that away. So I'm actually going to make it a point to dedicate, look at one of the kids and say, hey, you know what? You got 15 minutes of my time. I don't care what it is, if it's Barbies or video games or Legos. Those are the 3 things that are going to come up the most. What is it? And I'm going to make it a point to do that. I can't say it's going to happen every day, but I know I'm going to make it happen a couple times a week. And that's how that's how you kind of separate, that personal time and your family time. Otherwise, I do a lot of time blocking on my calendar. So I know I podcast on Fridays. So Fridays, I block out a section just for podcasting. I know that I have specific events I attend. I have meetings I always attend. Everything's color coded. I try to be very conscious of my time, and I completely live by my calendar. If something doesn't go on my calendar, I will miss it. So
Yeah, definitely for any listeners out there with young kids. I mean, they're only under our roofs for 18 years before they're out in the real world. So, I mean, we only have a certain amount of time with our young ones to have an impact on their lives. So,
you're only
And I heard something
for
today.
half that time, right?
yeah, yeah.
I heard something today on a podcast about how, after the first 5 years, they mentioned it, that the first 5 years are the most important, and after that, they kind of get their independence, right? So those 5 years are extremely important, and that's something that I've definitely adopted is trying, like, if I show you my camera onto my calendar, I have time blocks for family time from 5:30 to 9 every single day. And I try and be intentional with my time blocks. Does it always happen? Absolutely not. But that's definitely something I've learned from you, Ted, is you've even changed your voicemail now, right? Where if you say, if it's between the hours of, what is it, 5 and 8, I'll get
Mhm.
back to you at 8:30.
Yeah, I think it says if it's after 5, this is family time, and I'll get back to you after the kids are in bed, I think is what it states.
And none of your properties have burnt down. You haven't lost any deals because of it. Life goes on, right?
If when there's an emergency. I mean, I'm a realtor too, so there's contract deadlines that come up, and it's not every day, but that's just my standard. And I actually have never, in the 1 or 2 years I've had that on there, I've never had anybody like say anything negative to that. Actually, it's been the opposite. I've had more people praise me for doing that, and actually said they want to work with me because they heard that on my voicemail. So I was really worried to put that and how I'd react. But it also, if a realtor or somebody calls me and they hear that, then it actually gives me a little bit of a cushion of time to respond. So and just putting it out there, right? And I also have that on my my autoresponder on my text messages. Sorry, family time. I'll call you later. Somebody put a comment in here about social media on your phone and apps. No kidding. Last night I switched all of my social media apps to my iPad. It's been extremely difficult, and I hope I can survive it. And being a guy that runs, I laugh when I say this, but I think I have like 20 Facebook groups I manage. You guys don't know this. It's on everything too, all my hobbies. And if I have a hobby, I create a Facebook group. So I have a biking Facebook group. I have a Mustang Facebook group, so on, so on, so on. But yeah, I'm really struggling with not getting on Facebook. That's my biggest weakness, and we'll see what happens.
Sounds like networking is pretty important to you.
Yeah. Well, there was another comment here asking, how many properties I got. My portfolio isn't huge. I got 9 units, which equates to 4 properties, and every single one of those, I actually, except my very first one I bought from a family member, I got from networking. I got them from people posting them on the RIA page, or somebody at the RIA approaching me that they had an off-market deal. So if you wanted to get deals, it's all about networking. There's a great comment that Owen Dasher made once, and he said that he was at an event sitting at a table with Clint Bartlett, and he's saying how he wished he had a property in West Omaha, and then Clint's like, "Oh, I got a property in West Omaha," and he sold it. He made his $5,000 or $10,000. Clint got it, renovated it, and he made another $20-some thousand on it. And that happened just from networking at a table. And I always love telling that story.
So
Yeah.
I mean, I've heard that story too. I love that. There's a way for everyone at every level to make money on real estate, right? And the wholesaler should be ethically solving problems for the homeowner, and they should be able to make their spread giving it to a flipper. The flipper should make money selling it to a buy and hold investor, or an end buyer. There's a way for everyone to ethically make money in this business, and I do love that. One of the comments in here is about starting out in real estate. Someone said, I'm starting out and I'm ready to I'm ready to become full-time, ready to close my first deal. What are your recommendations, tips, or suggestions for starting?
Find a niche. Every time we get talking about real estate, it's all about the niche, right, Mike?
Yeah.
Our niche is investment real estate. And I kind of had a mind-blowing thing. Getting on a podcast, we're interviewing somebody that hasn't come out yet, and he is Spencer Goldberg, and he's selling stuff to Bud Crawford, the national boxer, right? Well, he got that lead because there is a guy in California, and he's known as the real estate investor for boxers. That's his niche. So every boxer in the world goes to him and he probably got niched with one person, said, I'm going to explore this, and then advertised it, sponsored probably people. Who knows how he did? I'd love to actually interview him. Actually, I'm gonna write that note down to interview him. But he found a crazy small niche, right? But it's a worldwide scale. And I've been so small-minded in this. I'm like, every time I talk to a new investor, I'm like, find a niche. If it's, like I recruited my mom to be on my real estate team, and my mom was in the building industry forever. And I'm like, hey, I go, your strong point, every single builder in town. You really should niche out and just, focus on, do whatever you can to get money when you start, of course. I go, but you should put all your focus on builders. Every builder, you can read blueprints, what hardware their people are putting in, this industry, you can take it to the next level. And yeah, that's niche. But now, what's the, that's small-minded, right? So what's the big picture of that? What's the, maybe you can be the, the new home custom person that helps every, football player in town. I don't know, but, taken nationally, there's niches in there that we're not, scratching, and you got to be thinking a lot bigger picture. So my advice is you find out what thing that you love, and one thing better than anybody else, and do it. Like Mike hit me up because I knew foundations, and I knew foundations better than anybody else. So guess what? When I started off, I had every investment deal that had a bad foundation.
Yeah, there was a lot of them at the time. I remember, like, every other house I was looking at had a crack in the foundation that we had to come out and investigate for us. So
Totally.
But that too, that's why I love real estate. There's so many different avenues in real estate that you can go after. Single family homes, keeping them as rentals or flipping them, or multifamily, or building multifamily, or investing in strip centers, and then not only that, even taking down a deal, creative financing. There's so many ways to slice the pie. Partnerships, JV partnerships. I could go on and on, but yeah, there's so many different avenues. And again, why we're talking about networking is networking with people to figure out ways to invest with each other and invest in taking down larger projects or thinking bigger and outside of the box. So,
yeah.
So Ted, as we get to the end of the hour, I do want to hear more about what your goals are. Like, where's Ted going next with your investing career, with your networking, with the RIA group? I know Nebraska RIA is already in effect. What are you heading towards?
It's a good question. So one of the first times I'm actually sitting down with a coach, getting some advice, kind of, looking at what I'm doing at a bigger picture, and, really kind of analyzing things. And I think, I was trying to think what I'm great at. And, it's funny that we're talking about this, but networking is something that I find that is easy to me. So we were kind of talking about, also one thing I'm really I'm really good at looking at a business that's already established and figuring out what's broken from the outside in. So, when there's been multiple times I've been brought in as a partner and brought in like, hey, this is things we could change. Now, the thing that sucks is when you're in a business for too long, you just kind of get lazy and you look past those things, and you're not trying to fix it. But when you come in with that fresh mind, especially that first year, you should always pay attention to new employees when they're coming in, because they probably got advice that you need to listen to. But one thing that my coach suggested was kind of coming in and being what's that the bar rescue guy? You know what I'm talking about? John Taffert.
Yep.
Yeah, he said you should be John Tappert of RIA groups. And he's like, there should be a dollar amount and go in and fix these RIA groups. And so one thing that I'm trying to do is this RIA Nebraska. There's 6 RIAs that I'm working some partnerships out with right now, not to own them, but to help them and help them grow and kind of look from the outside inside. And I'm hoping if these partnerships all come together, that I can do proof of concept, help them grow, and then maybe expand that on a national scale. Like if it can work, power of networking, power of building a network, power of being the guy running your network. I was hoping that I could possibly do presentations on that, which is not my strong point, is doing presentations, but it's something I need to learn and get better at. And then if maybe the stars align, we can eventually do a book on something like this.
Yeah, that brings up a question that somebody put in the group. Other than partnerships with my wife and I, what other partnerships do you have that you have created through networking?
I really don't have a lot of partnerships. I'm kind of scared of partnerships. That's something I need to get out of my shell on. Mike and Jerry pretty much spent 3 years telling me, 4 years maybe, oh, Ted, you're a partner with the real estate company, and I just kind of avoided the conversation over and over until he literally put a contract in front of me and said, sign here. So
what about RIA Radio? Are you and Owen partners on RIA Radio? And
yeah, so technically it's mine right now, but it is something that I want to create as a business and do a partnership on that, just because of the growth. And really, if Owen wasn't in it, I wouldn't be doing it. Denless too. And so, we're a team, and I just wouldn't enjoy it without those guys. So yes, we're talking about creating that as a business partnership. And yes, Denless was a person that was a RIA member that started offering his services as a photographer, and it led into being a producer. And Owen, actually, Jerry was supposed to be my first host, or was supposed to be the host when we were concepting it. And we approached Owen and because we figured between the two, they'd be so busy that they wouldn't always be available to record. And Mikey and Jerry ended up doing a podcast. So then Owen and I just ended up doing the podcast, and then it just stuck. So that's kind of where that went. But all my I don't have a big portfolio, but all the properties I do, I've done on my own thus far. And my wife's not really involved with the real estate side. She's heavily involved with the RIA side, but other than that, it's kind of solo.
Okay. And the Nebraska RIA partnerships that you're looking at, are those partnerships, or are you just looking to?
Technically, they're all independently owned branches, and I'm coming in. There's a few branches that I helped start, and then I don't run them, and I don't want to own them either. I just want to be able to be the marketing arm to grow those groups.
Okay.
So one of the things you said in the last question was that you're now seeing a coach about how you can, is it a performance coach or what kind of coach is it?
Yeah, he's a very, very successful business owner, and somebody I've known for a lot of years. I don't think he wants to be shouted out, but he's providing his services for free, and we get to go do lunch every 3 weeks. He gives me a list of to-do items and says, as long as the to-do items are done, I'll meet you again in 3 weeks. So right now it's it's a kind of like hand helping. he just says I got too many businesses on my plate, and I'm putting my focus on things that don't make money, and I need to focus more on the things that can make money. And that's kind of his big picture to me right now.
Oh, that's awesome. And my, my point in bringing that up is that, coaches come in all forms and sizes. No matter what level you're at, you're constantly pursuing a coach that can, help you propel to the next level. And you're helping bring people that are, maybe a step behind you and hopefully accelerating them ahead of you. And I think that's the power of coaching. And at every single level, you should have a coach and you should have someone that you're coaching. And that's what I love so much about this industry. And one thing that we've done with Dream Vesting is we've started doing coaching on the basics of real estate. And we it started with Jerry doing catalyst coaching, and now it's kind of evolved into Mike, Jerry, and I doing the multiple levels of coaching, and just to help bring the people that maybe are just starting out, which I feel those people are at the meetup groups, right? The people that, I remember being that person not very long ago. I just got into real estate, 2-3 years ago. And I was that person at the meetup group that was scared to talk to people. Like, I didn't want to seem like the idiot in the room. And luckily it took someone like you, Ted, to come up to me and talk and introduce me into it. And I can't say where I'd be in real estate if it wasn't for the friendliness that I got from the Omaha RIA.
Man, that's awesome. I love hearing that.
Yeah. And I can attest to having
Can you do a video testimonial, Tanner?
Yeah. I can attest to having coaches at different stages in my business. And if it weren't for those coaches, I don't know where I'd be at. So definitely, to Tanner's point, it's always good to have coaches in any aspect of a business.
I mean, technically, Jerry was my first coach in a lot of ways, because when I started working for you guys, that you guys were running out of a 2-bedroom, single family house,
Yeah.
running all your companies, and there wasn't a space for me. So I actually sat on the opposite side of Mike's wife, and we were face to face for 6 months, and I just absorbed as much as I possibly could. I've never been a big guy of being coached. I love going to events where I get to listen in, take notes, record my golden nuggets from each event. My one takeaway. I love outside events like Bigger Pockets Conference, whatever. And I love the meetups too. And I always had that one takeaway. But I never actually approached Jerry, her being a coach, to be a coach, just because she's been, you guys have been friends of mine for so long. I think it's a little harder to take coaching from somebody that's your close friend or business partner. Sometimes you got to step out. So it's kind of hard having a great coach at right next to you to help. But also I think it's good to step out with somebody that kind of doesn't know anything that you're doing, kind of has an outside looking in. So.
Yeah. Do you have a golden nugget for us? You mentioned golden nuggets, and a question in the chat is, do you have a golden nugget for us? What should we start doing that we're not doing right now?
Oh yeah. I don't know if I specifically a golden nugget, but somebody made a comment about books.
Yes.
And,
yeah. Book recommendations.
I don't, I'm a huge person when it comes to Amazon. I love to go to the gym in the morning. I love to listen to books. I'm not a guy that I like reading. I have a hard time making time for it, to be honest with you. So I guess, I try to get through a couple books a month, and the most recent ones that I finished, I finished 5 of them actually in the last. I had a 2-day road trip I did back from California, so I actually blasted through a ton of books on that. But Who Not How is one I got about 58 minutes on. That one's been great. Do the Impossible by Jason Dries. E-Myth is Richest Man Babylon, 4-Hour Work Week are all books that I've just in the last 6 weeks that I've listened to. So my golden nugget is absorb as many of this and whatever podcast that you can absorb that is specific to what you want, and make sure that you're not listening. Just if you're bored with it, move on to another podcast. There's millions of them out there.
That's what's awesome, is there's so many free resources out there, right? That people you can't use the excuse of, I just don't know enough, or I don't have the information. It's all out there. It's all free.
Yeah, and there's great content out there. If you're a YouTuber, there's tons of content on there. Just don't watch the wrong videos. There's a lot of people just trying to get you to buy under their memberships.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. And Ted, I thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your experience in the industry and how it's gotten you to the place where you're at now. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, Instagram is a great one. Kaasch money is my Instagram handle. We're also on RIA Radio. Is our Instagram on there? My email is ted@omaharia.com. I'm not going to give my phone number because I don't, but if you want to reach out to me in one of those platforms, you can. I see there's a ton of questions we didn't get to. So if you have a question that you really want me to answer, just hit me up on those platforms. I'm on Facebook also, but I'm trying to only check that once a day now. So it might take me a little bit. And I do all my emails at night. So if you email me, you probably won't get a response till between 8 and midnight, just so you guys know. So I see lots of good questions. I really want to answer them. So if you guys do reach out to me, I am happy to do a quick call with you and figure that out.
And we do love all the questions, so please keep them coming. If you're watching this live, thank you so much for joining us. If you're watching the recording, feel free to put your comments in here and we'll do our best to respond to them during the week. Mike, any last words?
Nope. Networking's your net worth, right? We hear it all the time. So
Absolutely.
I appreciate Ted's knowledge on networking, and he's been tremendous at it. And I've learned a lot from Ted today. So
nice. That's what you learned.
Absolutely. No, and if you want to learn more about the basics of real estate, feel free to reach out to us. We're starting our coaching programs in June, and the next phases of introducing you to the basics of real estate and getting your first investment property. Send us a message on Dream Investing Capital Facebook group. As always, feel free to reach out to us if you're interested in investing passively in multifamily properties. We thank you guys for joining us today, and go to dreamvestingcoaching.com for more information on how you can learn more about real estate.
Awesome, guys. Appreciate it.
yep. Thanks, Ted. Thanks for joining us today.
Can we watch the video now with sound?
I don't think we have sound still.
Oh no.
Are you ready to meet the networking master of Omaha? He's the undisputed champion of building connections and forging relationships. With his electrifying ability, he has transformed the real estate industry, becoming a true visionary in the process. From exclusive listings to game-changing partnerships, Ted Kaasch has catapulted himself to the forefront of Omaha's real estate landscape. But it's not just his physical networking skills that make him stand out. He's harnessed the explosive power of technology and social media to expand his empire, leaving a digital trail of jaw-dropping success stories and exclusive opportunities. With his magnetic charm and electrifying presence, he inspires aspiring entrepreneurs in Omaha and beyond to chase their dreams with unbridled passion. So let's witness the rise of the networking master himself, Ted Kaasch.
Hey, how was that?
That's awesome. I love it.
Wow. Oh man, never play that again.
Save the best for the end.
Oh, fun stuff. Appreciate it, guys.
Yep.
All right. Thank you,
All right.
Ted, and everyone that's watching. Thank you very
Thanks
much.
everybody for joining us.
Awesome, guys. Later.
Yep. Have a great evening.
You too.